Hi. Let's have a go at the making of the seamless tile. We practiced a few times, so this is a bit of a refresher. And then we'll take it at the next step and make a normal map and make a bump map, and then take it into 3ds Max and apply it with the UVW map modifier onto an object. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the photograph I've got here. And first things first, let's check the size of it first. Image size 2048 by 2048, 72 pixels per inch. Okay, we'll need to know that information for when we use the offset filter. Okay, so let's apply that offset filter. Filter, other, offset, 1024, 1024, that's exactly what we want, which is half of the dimensions of the original image. Okay, put that in there, and we've got a few options. We've got our healing brush, patch tool, and we've got our clone stamp. Okay, so let's go into, actually I've got the clone stamp set up, so let's have a look at that first. So clone stamp, look at the brush size. Okay, so currently I've got this one selected, 102 in size, and it's got a nice kind of like scattered pattern to it. So let's have a little go at that first of all. So select a part of the image that you wish to clone, hold the Alt key, click it, and our object is to get rid of the seams. And we're going to be very, very careful not to touch those edge points up there, 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 and there. We're going to stay away right just from those edges there. We're going to stay away from those. Okay. So let's have a go. Clicked Alt and click, and let's see if we can just brush in. Oh, before we begin, let's also look at the settings for the stamp tool. I've got the opacity set to 47. And it's sampling from the current layer. So Alt, click, and go. And as you know from your own experience, this does take time. Depending how long it's going to take, I may at some point just pause, work on it for a while using these techniques that I'm showing you, and then restart the file, restart the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this real quick and rough, and then I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to define it as a pattern. A lot of clicking going on. I'll define it as a pattern, and then we'll review, and we'll do this cycle over and over until we're pretty happy we've got what we want from the file. Okay, so obviously I know this isn't finished because I can see patterns and marks on it that will become obvious when we repeat them, but for the moment I'll just go Edit, Define Pattern, and it's giving it that name, and I'll call it Square 1. Okay, I need to make a file that's at least twice the size now, so new file, and I'm going to go for 4096 by 4096, 72 ppi, and then OK that, and then Edit, Fill, locate the pattern that we've just created. There it is. It's always the last one in the chain. Say OK. Okay, so I can see straight away that there's work to be done along these seams here. You can see how it's working out. There's tonal variation as well, which I need to even out from there to there to there, etc. So yep, there's a bit of work to be done. So I can go back to my original file and begin again. Let's use the healing brush. select Alt, click, select an area. Let the healing brush do a little bit of clever kind of like cloning for us in effect. Okay. Now, oh, the last one just Control Z because I know that wasn't good. And I know that straight away that from the few marks I've made, there's still going to be issues with it, but just to repeat and get you used to the cycle, we'll do it again. We'll go Edit, Define Pattern. This time we'll call it number 2. We'll go to our Fill layer and we'll go Edit, Fill, choose the last in the chain. And there was a little shift there. Okay, so now I can go back in and work on this little bit, these marks, etc., etc. Okay, so just keep going like that, backwards and forwards until we have it cleared up as best we can. Okay, so to speed up the video, I'll pause it now and then I'll come back in with a file that's more advanced. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so after a little while of using the clone and the healing brush, I'm at this point, so let's put this to the test. Select all, edit, define pattern, call this one number 3, say OK, go back to my canvas to use the fill function, select the latest in the chain, say OK. OK, I'll go with that. I can still see a little bit of shading difference down here and here, so that will become a little bit apparent I think later on, but again, for the sake of not being obsessive and expediency, we'll accept that for the time being. So this can be my tile, so now I can go into here and go File, Save As, and let's call it Berlin Square, and we'll call it Offset. Offset complete. Okay. Filter. Okay, so you'll notice I just went Filter and I clicked the offset, which basically turns the offset, sets it back to 0 where it was at the beginning. Let's just test that out again. So edit. One last time, define pattern, offset complete, OK, go to the fill command, fill, select the latest one in the chain, say OK, and there we go. Yeah, that looks OK. OK, so I'm going to accept that. So I'm done with that canvas, the larger canvas for filling, don't need that anymore. OK, we've got our file. Just do a quick Control S to save that. Okay, so let's look at the layers. F7. Ooh, the layers are off screen, pull them on screen, there we go. Okay, so there's my file. Just get rid of layers that I don't need. Alright, so we're going to make a normal map and a bump map from this diffuse. This is called the diffuse map when we take it into a 3D program like 3ds Max. Okay, so simply I'm just going to duplicate that, so Command and Control and J. I'm just going to call that bump and Control and J again. I'm just going to call that normal. Okay, so there used to be a little plugin that you had to install inside Photoshop to do the following procedure, but you don't need to anymore because it's now integrated within inside Photoshop 2017. Okay, so let's turn off the normal map, we're not going to need that for the moment. Turn off the initial, I'll just call it diffuse for the sake of clarity. Okay, and we'll go to bump, we'll go filter, 3D, and create bump map. Pause. And you can see from the window that appears that we are in fact generating a bump map, which, as you'll know, or we'll go over later, is a grayscale height map in effect. And the settings that I've got are absolutely fine. I mean, you can tweak these if you need to, but you know, for the sake of this tutorial, they're absolutely fine. We've got some presets depending on what we want in terms of giving that impression of the surface patterns. Okay, so I'm just going to go with standard daylights and say OK. And create. Oh, sorry. Not gonna. Okay, so just got rid of that little box that popped up there to create a 3D space. There's my bump. Turn that off, go to the normal one, do the same thing, filter, 3D, generate normal map. And this time round we're basically generating a height map, but this time it's based on the RGB values. Let's have a little look. That's what we're looking for. There's the effect, and again we can go in here and we can tweak the various heights. Do what you need to do. Okay. Just got to give it a little bit of detail, and that's fine. Say OK. And so we've got our diffuse, our normal, and our bump. Later on we'll look at taking that bump map and we can create a specular map from it. I think we need to do that right now. Okay. Now that bump map might need a little bit of, we might just want to throw the levels up a little bit there, so I'll just go on Control and L. Control and L just to pull up the levels and just heighten that a little bit. So now I'm just going to save the whole map, File, Save As, and Berlin Wall, and we'll call it DBN, diffuse, bump and normal, and say OK. OK, let that save, and I'll just pause this for a sec as I move over to 3ds Max. OK, 1 second. OK, so here we are inside 3ds Max. I've just got a standard ground plane on the floor. That's my ground. I don't need to click that. That's my ground plane there in the stack. Yes, thank you. Don't show that again. And over the top of it, I've got a UVW map, which is planar and just fits to the ground plane. And in between, I've put this normal, edit normal modifier just to show you the normals. Okay, so I just thought you'd be interested to see that there is a modifier which allows you to see the normals and you can edit them and you can change the direction, etc. I just wanted to show you that in a way. Okay, so back to the task at hand. I've got a couple lights in the scene. Standard Omni light. And if you look underneath intensity, color, attenuation, I've got quite a high multiplication on there, multiplier, and I've changed the color slightly. And I'm just going to I've got the attenuation near and far on. That's the kind of the influence of the light, if you like. And I'm just going to turn those off now that you can see what they're doing. And the same thing for my target spotlight. I've got shadows on, area shadows, and I've got the attenuation on as well. Sorry, I've got the visible. I've got it made it visible so I can turn those off. We don't need to see those at the moment. Okay, so 2 lights, 1 ground plane with a UV map with a planar projection on it, and I'll just go over to my material window, which I'm going to have to pull into here. I'm using 2 screens at home, but here we go. Here's the material. Okay, so I've got a standard material, and in the diffuse slot I've simply got the first layer from the Photoshop file that we created. So I'll just show you how I did that. So if you come out of diffuse, click general, bitmap, locate that file that we just created, the one that said DBN at the end, and we're going to say OK to that, and it's going to ask us one more thing. It's going to say individual layer or collapse layers. I'm going to go for individual layer, and I'm going to choose the diffuse layer. And there it is, attached. OK. That's as simple as it was. OK. I can get rid of that initial one that I created. And same process down here for the bump. Well, not quite the same process, but more or less. Okay, so bump, drag it out, general, let's go for normal bump. Okay, and then from the normal section, we can add general, bitmap, same file, individual layers, choose normal, say OK. And then there it is. Now in the additional bump, that's where we can put our grayscale. In effect, our traditional bump map. Oh, if it lets me just drag that out. General, bitmap, DBN, individual layer, and this time around we'll just choose the initial bump. Not entirely necessary, but I just wanted to show it to you as a process. Okay, so I've just double clicked the material here so we can see it inside the navigator. We can see the whole material structure. So we've got our diffuse layer, and then we have our bump or a normal bump inside there, and inside, when you double click that, you get to see that you've got your normal plus an additional bump. And then you can do things like flip the red and green channels and the tangents, but we're going to leave those as they are. And we'll go and have a quick look at a render now. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize my material viewer and just do a quick F9, and that's what we've got straight off the bat inside 3ds Max. Nice sense of volume to each of these little recesses here. Now inside the material library, I want to go inside here again, and this time round let's change the shader to, should we put it to Oronea Berlin? Let's have a little look at that shader. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this window off screen, and I'll just tell you if I change it again. Okay, it's just because it's a little bit difficult to keep popping it on and off the screen, but I'll leave it off there for a moment. Let's have a quick F9. I should say actually, I'm going to pull the material window back in one last time. I'm going to stop any second. Okay, so also up here, select the active material and click on this button here that says show shaded material in the viewport. That's very helpful for when you're wanting to resize or scale a material against an object and do it live in the viewport, which is nice. Okay, so we've got some basic shaders that we can play with to add different levels of specularity, reflection, the way that they respond to light, etc. But we'll come to those at another point. I think I'll probably just finish it there. And one sec, I'll just do one last render. Okay. That'll do for now. Just before I finish and sign off, I'm just going to do one last thing. Inside the UV map, I'm just going to change the tiles to 3 and 3. And inside the material browser, the material window, editor, I should say, I'm going to change it from, click it, and I'm going to, I'm going to go from Fong to Oronea Berlin, do a last render, and then save it. Okay. Okay, that's nice. Oronea Berlin's giving that nice high kind of specular, wet kind of look up to the surface there. Okay, I'll stop now. Thanks.